Friends. Thank you for joining me today. And again, as in recent weeks, I'm focusing on a special day where the nation comes together as a community, or at least tries to. Yeah, so 4th of July. My earliest memory of 4th of July, perhaps when I was around 5 or 6, that is, memory of that particular day. My earliest memory is holding a sparkler, flashing, sputtering sparkler in my hand and marveling at its wonder and beauty. There on my front lawn with my sisters doing the same thing. I liked the sparkler in my hand better than the kind of sparklers writhing on the ground. They were interesting too. And this was, of course, in case you're amazed, long before there were any laws at all about fireworks and children. It was not till the 1970s laws began to come in. Everyone seemed to ignore the fact that there could be terrible burns on hands and face, sometimes fires started. And because outlets were everywhere where you could buy fireworks, and we would save our allowance money so we had lots and lots to play with. Nowadays, of course, there are very strict laws about it. Some states forbid any fireworks of any kind to be sold to anybody under 18. But then we were in the middle of it all, a big, big party, the nation's party. We went to fairs, we went to picnics, we heard speeches, mainly political, of course. We sang songs. Oddly enough, I don't remember any big displays of fireworks after dark in the community. There must have been, but I don't remember them. I was too excited over the ones I could hold in my hand. I never thought as a tiny child to ask, why are we holding sparklers, sending off fireworks? If I had, probably someone would have said, well, you know the song we sang at the picnic, rockets' red glare, bombs bursting in air, that's what we're doing. It gave proof to the night. And it was a night for the nation. We were right in the middle of the 1930s, the worst depression of history, not only of our nation, but many other nations. A terrible time where 25% of the population was out of work, where 1/3 of America's farmers had lost their farms. 9,000 banks closed across the country. People starving, people committing suicide. Read the book, The Grapes of Wrath. I've often talked about this, that most people don't realize what a danger and horror this was for the country. So why did we celebrate at all? Well, when you stop to think of it, when the song was first written, 1814, America was in another awful war with England. And there, as Francis Scott Key stood as hostage in this British ship, watching the bombardment of Baltimore, Fort McHenry, he was probably wondering, would it be captured like Detroit had been, or burned the way Washington, D.C. had been? And when the White House was burned, the Capitol, the Treasury building, the Library of Congress, many other buildings burned down. And he must have thought, are we going to lose our independence all over again that we fought for so hard just 29 years ago since that war ended? It was very uncertain. Things weren't looking good. But he wrote the song anyway. And we sang it again anyway, there in the 1930s. Disaster around us, but we sang it anyway. Well, it wasn't just that song we sang that day. There was another song we sang together. A song some believe should be on an equal basis, equally honored with the national anthem of the Star-Spangled Banner. This song I'm talking about was written 81 years later. And for the first time I learned about its author, I felt I'd made a new friend. In 1893, incidentally, the year my mother was born, a young 33-year-old woman ascended Pikes Peak, over 14,000 feet above sea level. She went the first part of the journey on a prairie wagon. No lifts in those days. Then after the prairie wagon had gone as far as it could, then she transferred to a mule. And then finally, the last gasp, on her feet. She was, she said, breathless and exhausted. Well, you would be at over 14,000 feet. And then she stood on the top of Pikes Peak and looked around her. And she only felt great joy, to quote her, for she saw the distant mountain majesties. She saw the golden wheat fields. She saw the spacious skies. She saw the panorama of America spread out below her feet. Her name was Catherine Lee Bates. She was an English professor at Wellesley. But that's not all. She was a poet, a social worker, an activist for the poor, the immigrants, the Black people, for women's rights, for global peace, getting right down in there, working among them. And this was a night, a real night, for the nation in 1893. The panic, financial bank panic of 1893, probably the second worst depression the nation has had. It was a time when the rich were obscenely rich and the poor obscenely poor. The millionaire, many times over, tycoons, not accountable to anyone. There was no income tax. There was no federal help for the poor, the sick, the disabled, the unemployed, none. It was a time when there were no housing laws, and Catherine Lee Bates knew those slums and those terrible tenements. She had worked among them. Tenements ruled by greedy landlords, in which maybe 12 people were crowded together in one room without a outside window, and maybe one spigot of water in the courtyard for all the people to use. And as she wrote this poem on the top of Pikes Peak, she was thinking of the alabaster cities, the great skyscrapers. But in the future, she dreamed perhaps undimmed by human tears. She knew those tears. She'd worked among them. And that is a song, of course, that celebrates the dream of our founders. Oh, beautiful for pilgrim feet whose stern impassioned stress, a thoroughfare for freedom built across the wilderness. It celebrates the vision of our past. It also looks to the future, those gleaming towers with the wretched poor now being helped, healed, given decent work, decent living quarters. She dreamed of that. Yes, she herself did not have an easy time. Very few women attained a position of professorship anywhere, almost unheard of. And if she had married, she would have lost her job. Back then, women teachers simply did not marry. In fact, that kind of custom lasted right up through my high school years. And all those years in high school, I only knew 2 married women teachers. All the men were married, of course, but not the women. So she herself had personal struggle, personal night. Well, of course, as you and I know, we're in a night of many ways right now with a cruel, greedy administration that has no vision, no memory of history, no real knowledge of the values of this nation, who care only about their personal power. I won't go into detail right now of what's happened this past week. You know it as well as I do. 10,000 immigrants arrested in 5 days, quietly now, without fanfare. Among them, how many innocents who have lived here most of their lives, worked hard, paid their taxes. You know of this past week, the Supreme Court has increased the president's power. All right, enough of that. I'm thinking of the 3rd verse of Katharine Lee Bates' song, as she celebrated not only the vision of the past and the vision of the future, but the vision right now, which we celebrate too. Wonderful people who stand up and witness and declare what is the real cause of our celebration today, and live in their own lives the real vision of America, the way they dreamed of it. The 3rd verse is not often sung. Let me read it to you. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved by liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. Night is around us, but we sing anyway, the way Katharine Lee Bates sang 1893, the way my parents sang in the 1930s, the way, to go way back, Francis Scott Key's heart sang when he saw the proof in the night that the flag was still there. We sing anyway, don't we? And we keep singing. And I do thank you from all my heart for you being with me as we each sing in our own way. See you next week.